Now let me introduce briefly Wordsworth's life and works. William Wordsworth was born on April 7, 1770, in a small village named Cockermouth, on the northern edge of the Lake District. They lived in a stately home near the fairest of all rivers, Derwent River. Across the Derwent River from their home was one of Wordsworth's favorite places, Cockermouth Castle, settled into ruins. His father was a law agent and rent collector, and his family was fairly well off. But his father died in 1783. After his mother's death in 1778, Wordsworth was sent to the Hawkshead Grammar School, and he stayed there for 9 years. His days at Hawkshead were among the most important in his life. The first books of his long autobiographical poem, The Prelude, reveal the profound way that his early experiences at Hawkshead, walking, trapping, nutting, shaped his life. In 1787, he entered St. John's College, Cambridge. He was not particularly excited by the course of study there. He took his B.A. degree in 1791, but the greatest stimulation of the Cambridge days was from his experience with nature. Wordsworth enjoyed hiking. During the long vacation of 1788, he returned to the sights and sounds of the Hawkshead region. Books 3 and 4 of The Prelude tell how Wordsworth, as if awakened, summoned, roused, constrained, looked for universal things. Accompanied by his sister Dorothy and by Mary Hutchinson, Wordsworth spent the second summer vacation in 1789 wandering through the country of Derby and York. In the summer of 1790, Robert Jones, his Welsh friend, was his companion for a walking tour through the countries of France, Switzerland, and Italy. Wordsworth was deeply moved by his meeting with people of France, but he was more deeply moved by the alpine scenery. After taking his degree from St. John's College, Wordsworth was in London for several months, toured the northern parts of Wales with Robert Jones, and departed for France in November 1791 with the idea of learning French in preparation for becoming a tutor. Wordsworth developed passionate sympathies with the cause of the French Revolution, thinking it a great movement for the liberation of men from dehumanizing forces. But the most important event of his sojourn in France was his relationship with Agnes Vallum, who bore him an illegitimate daughter, Caroline, in December 1792. There is a good reason to think that Wordsworth and Agnes intended marriage, but their relationship was interrupted by a summons that Wordsworth received from his uncles, announcing that he was to return to England immediately. Since he was entirely dependent upon them for financial support, Wordsworth did not have much choice in that matter. Before they called him back home to England, Wordsworth had actually made plans to return home to ask their permission for his marriage with Annette. However, any return to France was made impossible by the English declaration of war against France in 1793. The year that followed was a great torture for the poet. Besides all the emotional torture he had experienced after leaving Annette and his daughter behind in France, he had not only his fading hopes for the revolution to deal with, but also a near exclusion from his own family. In 1794, he was reunited with his sister Dorothy, who became his companion, a close friend, moral supporter, housekeeper, until her physical and mental decline in the 1830s. In 1795, Wordsworth met Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and the three of them, Wordsworth, Dorothy, and Coleridge, they grew very close. Wordsworth and Coleridge met daily during 1797 and 1798 to talk about poetry and to plan their lyrical ballads, a collection of poetry written by the two in close collaboration and intended as an experiment in poetry written in the natural language of man. Lyrical Ballads was first published anonymously in 1798, yet it came to be regarded as the inauguration of the English Romantic movement. In the fall of 1798, the three friends traveled to Germany, a trip that produced intellectual stimulation for Coleridge, but homesickness for Wordsworth. In 1799 in Germany, Wordsworth wrote the lucid poems and began to work on his autobiographical poem, later published as Prelude. After their return, William and Dorothy settled at Dove Cottage in their beloved Lake District. In 1802, Wordsworth and Dorothy visited France again to see Annette and Caroline. On their return to England, Wordsworth married Mary Hutchinson. By 1810, they had 5 children, but their happiness was tempered by the loss at sea of William's brother John. In 1805, the alienation from Coleridge in 1810, and the death of the 2 children in 1812. Wordsworth's lyric career began with descriptive sketches, which was published in 1793, and reached an early climax with Lyrical Ballads, which was published in 1798, and his powers peaked with Poems in 2 volumes, was published in 1807. The important later works were well underway. His success with shorter forms made him more eager to succeed with longer, especially with a long 3-part philosophical poem containing views of man, nature, and society. During his lifetime, he refused to print the Prelude, which he had completed in 1805, because he thought it was unprecedented for a poet to talk so much about himself. So he spent much of his later life revising the Prelude. Critics quarreled about which version is better, the 1805 or the 1850, but agree that in either case it is the most successful blank verse epic since Paradise Lost. In 1813, Wordsworth received an appointment as distributor of stamps for Westmoreland, and the £400 per year, which went with his post, made him financially secure. The whole family, which included Dorothy, moved to Rydalmount. Finally, fully reconciled to Coleridge, the two of them toured the Rhineland in 1828. Durham University granted him an honorary Doctor of Civil Law degree in 1838, and Oxford conferred the same honor the next year. When Robert Southey died in 1843, Wordsworth was named Poet Laureate, and he died in 1850, and his wife published the much revised Prelude that summer. So much for Wordsworth's life.